I'm going to share with you the 5-step nutrition strategy that we've used with 500 plus enduro racers that allows them to be able to ride a 3-hour enduro race at race speed without running out of energy, without losing concentration, without making silly mistakes, without sitting down when they should be standing up, without going into survival mode instead of actually staying in attack mode for the full race. All while using a few simple foods and supplements that you can get at any supermarket from anywhere around the world. Step 1 is the night before. So if you don't do this or you don't get it nailed, this is the first step in building your body's fuel tank for race day. So if you stuff this up, it's like rocking up to the start line here, as we can see these guys, with a quarter of a tank of fuel in the bike, knowing you've got 3+ hours ahead of you. Okay, if you skip this, then when it comes to the second half of the race, you'll be thinking things like, I wish the race was over, I wonder how long's left, why did I even enter this race in the first place? So it's important because when we're racing, our body's main fuel source is carbohydrates. Okay, so we can see these guys here getting ready or preparing, having a look at the track, getting ready to go and race. When they go and race, carb stores are their primary fuel source that they're using. So we want to make sure that we've got our carb tank at 100% ready to go. So the best way to be able to start this process is the night before. So you can have like a serving of protein and fats, like some steak and some avocado or a fattier cut of meat. But you want to prioritize slow digesting carbohydrates. So things like sweet potato, brown rice, oats, quinoa, the night before, to make sure that by the time you get to that point where you are at the start of the race, your fuel tank's at 100%. If you can do this, you'll have your carbohydrate tank stores topped up to say 80% or as close to 100% as we can get them with the one meal the night before. And so what this will mean is that you might be a little bit heavier on the scales, but you'll be ready to rock and roll for race day. And nothing beats that feeling of being ready to go, does it? It's like that confidence that comes with knowing that you've done the work, knowing that you've done the preparation, knowing that you're ready to get out there. Step 2 is race day breakfast, 3 to 4 hours before your first race. So it looks like we've got prologue here. So when we're getting out for the first race, we want to make sure that our carb tank is at 100%. If your carb tank isn't full to the brim before the race, then you'll be starting the race at less than 100%. Okay, so if you want to be in a world of hurt after the race, rather than halfway through it, then don't skip your race day breakfast. Make sure your carbs are topped up. Breakfast is your last chance to really make sure that your carb tank is full to the brim before you get out and do like the main stuff like we're looking at here. Okay, so if you miss this and you're missing your breakfast or you haven't got it nailed, then when you turn up to the race, you might only have your carb tank at 3/4 full. Okay, and that means you're going to feel like shit partway through the race because you're just going to run out of energy. You're going to have no fuel in your tank. The bike might be ready to go, but you're not going to be ready to go. So the best way to tackle this is to have a serving of protein in the morning. So you could have a steak, you could have like even shortcut bacon, you could have like a casein protein shake if you have trouble digesting real food. But we want to make sure that we're maximizing and having a solid serving of slow digesting carbs. So the same as what we had for dinner. Could be sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa, oats. Okay. There's some companies that do great protein oats together, so you could put that together as an easy meal for race day. If you can nail this and get your carbohydrate tank to 100% and be ready to race from the start, then it will change your mindset because you'll be able to go into the race focusing on giving the race 100% rather than having to start off slow and be really conservative just so that your body can make it all the way through the race. Step 3 is our pre-race snack 30 minutes before we go out for our main race. So if we have a look at these guys, obviously they're burning a fair bit of energy and it's pretty hard going here as they're going through these different sections. Like, especially with hard enduro, you're really wrestling the bike around, moving it around a lot, getting on and off the bike. You've got awkward angles like we've got here, going up hills, through trees, a combination of a whole heap of stuff. So we want to have a last quick top up of carbs before the race so that you feel energized, a little bit satiated, and ready to kick some ass. So if you skip this, then you might feel a little bit hungry or maybe not quite as energized as what you could be. So it's important to use simple carbs to give you a quick blood sugar spike just to maximize your energy, to make sure it's at its absolute peak. So there's a few ways you can do this. You can have a piece of fruit 30 minutes before you go and ride. You could have a carb gel or a carbohydrate drink if you find it a bit harder to stomach food. All the hard work with making sure your carb tank and energy is at its peak is pretty much done at this stage. Okay, so now you're ready to know what it feels like to actually have a shit ton of energy and be able to kick some ass on race day. Step 4 is our during race top up. So if you skip the during race top ups, you'll get that feeling of hitting the wall that a lot of enduro riders talk about, where you run out of energy, you lose focus, you start making stupid mistakes, and you change from being in attack mode to now being in survival mode. So if we have a look at some of these sections here that we're going through, like obviously they're quite tight, they're quite technical. Okay, going through a lot of trees, there's a lot of focus and mental energy that's needed, not just physical energy. So as soon as your carbohydrates start to run out, those simple sections there that might be quite easy at the start of the race when you're fresh now become really hard. So all of that skills work that you've done is really not helping too much because your body's just cooked and so is your brain. So that's what we're trying to fix. You've chewed through some of your carbohydrate tank obviously already through maybe the first hour of riding. So the thing is with your carb tank is it doesn't operate. Oh, that was a ripper. That was a ripper. Is your carb tank doesn't operate like a normal fuel tank. Okay, so like on your bike, so let's say for these guys, right? If the tank's full or it's half full, the bike performs the same way. Like, yeah, it might be a little bit lighter because it's got less fuel in there, but in terms of the power output from the bike, the engine still runs the same. Okay, right until there's no fuel. Your body works a little bit differently with its carb tank. So if your carb tank has half the amount of fuel in it, okay, so we burnt through some carbs in the first bit of the race, it starts to sense that your carb tank is low on fuel. So it uses your carbs more sparingly. And what that means is it lowers your body's performance on the bike. Okay, so we always want to make sure we've got our carb tank as full as we can have it. And that means topping it up then throughout the race. So the way you top up your carbs is you want to top up your carbs by about 50 grams for every hour of riding. So you can use a carb gel in your hydration pack, which is what we use for the hard enduro guys. So like for these guys, right, if they've got a pack on, it's easy enough when you're in a section where it might be like very congested or you've got to wait until you get through the next section. It's easy enough for the hard enduro guys to just get a carb gel out. You can tape them to your handlebars, put it in your camelback and get your carbs in. Whereas we find like if you're doing hard enduro or say more cross country where there's more single trail or faster stuff, and that's most of the riding, you might find it easier to put a Powerade or a carbohydrate drink or a sports drink in your camelback. So if we have a look a very close up, if you put your carb drink in the back of your camelback, then that's going to make sure that you can get your carbs in while you're still riding as well. This will literally change the enjoyment you get from a race day. Okay, you'll go from like physically crashing and your body being depleted or being mentally depleted and being cooked and being absolutely exhausted. Whoa, that bike. I feel like everyone else needs a helmet on, not just the guys riding. You will go from your body physically crashing and losing all of its energy and really not enjoying the last part of the race to being able to feel like you have power to be able to power on for hours and hours. It's like that. You're always going to get that tired and exhausted feeling, but instead of it dropping off like that and feeling like you've just jumped off a cliff, it's going to start to drop off like that. So you're going to enjoy your racing more. You're going to feel like a winner, even if you're not winning the race. Okay, and I mean, like, you're just going to have this energy that you can keep pushing, you can keep going. Like, it's hard and it's tough, but it's not at that point where you're like, I want to quit. It's like, yeah, it's hard, but I can keep going. I've got juice in the tank to be able to do it. Number 5 is the after race recovery meal. So like you can see from these guys, they're using a lot of energy mentally and physically. Okay, your body is being broken down as well as the bike as you're going through the race. So if you're stiff, you're sore, and you're fatigued after the race, that's going to be normal no matter how much preparation you've done. But the thing that we want to do is we want to minimize that and reduce that stiffness, soreness, and fatigue as much as we possibly can. So if you skip the after race recovery meal, then you've just missed out on giving yourself the building blocks for your body to repair and recover. So you can get back on the bike the next day if it's a multi-day event, or be able to get back to training the following week. You never want to be taking like a week off training after you've been for a ride. The reason it's important is because you want to start that recovery process as quickly as possible from when you finish the race. So especially for multi-day events, okay, where you think about Romaniacs, we've got like Fink Desert Race here in Australia. You want to start that recovery process as quickly as possible. The longer your body goes without the nutrients it needs to start building itself after the race. So let's say for these guys, let's say they raced. The moment you stop racing and you finish, okay, and you come to a stop and you're done for the day, that's the moment your body needs those nutrients to start the recovery process. Okay, and the longer we leave it between when you finish for the day and getting any nutrients in, the longer your body's going to take to be able to recover, the more fatigued, the more sore you're going to be in the following days. So we want to make sure we get the right stuff in. So how do we do that? What we do is immediately after the race, okay, have a protein shake with 20 to 30 grams of protein. The reason we use protein is it's easily digested by the body. You're probably not going to feel like stomaching a big juicy steak right after you've just been riding for 3+ hours. If you can do this, then what you'll do is you'll shorten your recovery time and you'll feel better the next day. Okay, so you'll be able to get back into your normal training and be able to kick ass and get ready for the next race day. Or if you're doing multi-day events, you're going to be ready to go. So if you look here, they're using a lot of energy. Okay, you're breaking your body down. You're going through really tough sections here. We want to make sure that we've done everything we possibly can to give our body the fuel it needs to be able to be ready to rock and roll for the following week.